Every morning this time of year, we have two decisions to make. And the biggest one is, what's the weather going to be like today? Are we going to be able to paint? Are we going to be able to work in the garage? Or are we going to be able to go Christmas shopping? Now, Karen told me yesterday she's done wrapping, she's done shopping, but of course we have one more thing to get, so this may be a shorter day than what I originally planned. But even a short day is better than no day at all, or even worse, a day on Rikers Island. And I was hoping I'd get the hugger painted today. Well, it's raining now, and it looks like it's going to rain all day, but we always have, thanks to leapfrogging, we always have something to work on. That is a funny thing. Karen and I watched this show about people that moved to Alaska, and they were looking in this house yesterday. The real estate agent was showing them the house in Alaska, and they went into the closet, and there was a motorcycle in the closet. I said, oh man, this might be after I die. They'll come out in the garage, hey, look at all these motorcycles, huh? Do they come with the house? And I'm still trying to figure out exactly what sequence I want to do this in, because I want to paint the forks, of course. This last big piece of the fairing has to come off. The gas tank, of course, and the wheels. So we have many hours left on this project. And of course it's still raining, but I thought I'd show this for my friend, good friend, Chuck Holtzapple, who I know watches all these videos. And this is my bubbler here that you can see the water bubbling, and that'll keep a hole in the ice basically all winter. And thanks to all the rain, we have no snow left, and it wasn't that long ago. In fact, I can remember it like it was yesterday. We had hundreds and hundreds of zinnias growing back here, thanks to Nanda Navola getting me started in planting zinnias. And even though it's above freezing out there right now, yeah, right now is always the best time to have a cup of coffee. This one's for you, Scott. So after coffee every morning, I come down and I do my what I call the perp walk. It's the perp walk of buffing here, because it doesn't look like we're going to be able to paint today, but I look around and I think this part should be dry enough now for some wet sanding and or buffing. This we don't even care about. It's just I want to see how that's going to play out. This has to be buffed. I wanted to put a final buffing on that. I wanted to see if this is going to match, an exact match. These two parts have to be buffed. One of these is buffed, this one's buffed. I can tell. I know you can't tell on the video. This one's buffed, this one isn't. We got the fender to do. We got the hugger to do. We want to see, and maybe I'll even do this today. That really dried up nice, that resin, but the point is I want to see if it's going to buff. Because when I have this on a motorcycle and it gets scratched, I want to be able to run a buffing wheel on it and take off the scratches. And I got my windshield to do the shortening of. This is the long windshield. I want to make it the height of the short windshield. And I got the part I want to touch up if it ever stops raining. But I love the fact that all this rain could have been snow, and you don't have to shovel rain. Now the part we worked on yesterday, the hugger, I wanted to show this little trick. These are these little sanding sticks that we got from Scott. I want to make what I'll call a custom one. And obviously they're soft, so I can cut this. If I show this, I think everybody will figure out right away it's coming to a point. And I've got a spot down here. In fact, I ought to take the pliers off for one, just to make it more convenient. There's spots on anything that you can't get your hands into, and this is one of them right down in there. And I see I have a part of this now. I know for sure there's probably, realistically, nobody's ever going to see this. But I'll see it. And that's the whole reason for doing this, is to satisfy yourself. I mean, we're not going to any shows. We're not going for, you know, we're going to be competing with somebody who possibly has a lot more technology or money, or they're younger or whatever. This is just for us. There's a little spot here, and I can see these right away under the fluorescent lights. And so what this will be, when I'm all done with this, I'm going to carefully do this. I'll give this one more coat of primer. I'll wet sand it all down. And I'm looking around now, and I can see with this sanding stick, my finger won't fit in there. But this sand, I call it a sanding stick. It's really a nail file. And this little spot that we repaired, and I'm not sure you can see this, but How convenient is this? We could do it wet or dry. This I'll just do dry because I just want to see the result right away. And as soon as I get a break in the rain, I could run out and get a coat of primer on this. And what's nice about a day like today, Karen monitors the weather and she'll be sitting out. She's making a cola roast today. She's making a cola roast. So what'll happen, somewhere in the course of this day, she's going to yell down, "Hey, it's not raining out there. You want to run out and do your paint?" And that'll help. Now that I have these all dressed in, I'm just going to lightly wet sand this with 600 and get it all prepped up so if it stops raining, I'll be ready to go. Now, it's real quick to sand a coat of primer with 600. This is 600. The prime cuts right down. It actually, if you do this a couple times, you get a really nice smooth coat. It fills in all little imperfections. But the best thing is when you think it's perfect, look at it under fluorescent lights. Fluorescent lights are always the best way to look at something. So I'm going to tack rag this down and have it sitting out there waiting, ready to go. We want to put a coat of course, primer sealer, not primer. I try to show that on every video because I realize some people are watching this. It might be the first time they've ever seen a windy video, and they don't know what primer sealer is. And that's the whole idea of sometime when you're trying to pass on information, yes, it gets a little boring and redundant, but in the end, if your project comes out great, or like Steve, if you go win a show, hey, it's worth every penny. And having the parts ready, so as soon as those raindrops stop, we'll be ready to paint. We're all prepped up and just waiting. Now this is pretty cool. Karen was making me a cup of coffee. She noticed it wasn't raining for a few seconds. I ran out and got a coat of prime on this. I can get this up by the heating vent to dry. One break in our favor today. And that heating vent on a day like today, it's just our best friend as that stuff dries up. Okay, so we need something else here to do. We can just pick apart, and we have plenty, and because of course, because of leapfrogging, we have plenty of little projects to fill a day. Okay, so we're going to be sanding hard and clear. Again, the choice we have here is 2000 Rhino Wet. This is the little system that we've used, and it's allowed us to really do some nice work. So what I always like to do is show a small area in real time. What does it take? We're using a soft block to knock down. Now what this is supposed to do, of course, is get any imperfections, any dust, any little runs, anything out of the paint. It's always, I've found it best, and I know there's other ways of people have discussed it. If you can go one way, and 90 degrees one way, yeah, I've tried that. And on big like a car hood, that's easy. But on a part like this, the most important thing is just to constantly change your motion. So you don't want to just go in one direction for the whole part. You want to go in various different directions, go in circles, anything. As long as you can block sand and get it to be flat at the end. The major thing is to get it flat at the end. Now the flat parts, of course, we can do with the block. The little pieces around the edge and corners we have to do by hand. But it's always my motive, because we're trying to share information. I want to show it in real time. This should not take an excessive amount of time. It should take just what you just saw on video. Now I want to show it up close. No camera cuts. That's the way here's our original clear, and that's flats in. Now we'll just do the rest of the part and come back to it when we're done. Now that's sanded out real nice, and that's one more part ready to buff. I always like to, in the middle of the day while I'm having my extra cup of coffee here, I always like to check out. I always have the TV playing in the shop just for a distraction. This is the FCR restoration from last year, using up a couple gallons of paint remover to get the old finish off. We don't have to do any of that now. This restoration should be so much better, and I think the FCR came out pretty cool, but again, this makes me happy that I don't have to do this. So our old standby, a buffing compound 4CR 8065. This usually gets the job done pretty well, and if it doesn't, we know the paint is too soft and it's got to dry a few more days. I always want to start off every buffing day with a new pad, especially when it's parts I know. This may be maybe my final buffing on this part. Always a good idea to start with a new pad. Pads are cheap enough. That's one of the best tips I can give you, is when you're really looking to have it at the highest level, start with a new pad. I really don't know about the last video I just shot because the camera battery went dead. But that is one of the beautiful things about this process. The sanding part goes relatively quickly, and the buffing goes pretty quickly too. And then the rest of it, wherever these little angles and areas are, I have to finish that all off by hand. Now every time I do a part, I try to do one part at a time, and I try to really look it over under fluorescent lighting, not under incandescent lighting, and I can see, and I'll just show what I'm looking for here, if I can. There's a little dull spot right there, and it's a little dull spot, so I'm not sure you can see it right there, where it isn't really totally shined out. So now it's just a question of doing a lot of little touch-ups, and then at the very end, the last little bit by hand, getting in all these little corners and edges and things where you really can't get the buffer conveniently. And if you just go after it that way, that's gone. Yet little by little, I want to have each part as good as I can make it before I move on to the next part. Oh boy, that really buffed out beautifully. Always good to let it dry that extra couple of days. That is such an old school thing. Now, the only thing I have to see if these badges are going to match when I do the final thing. And if not, because these blacks, this is the Bentley black, it may not be a perfect match. Well, then I'm going to have to figure a way of painting the badges. I was hoping I wouldn't have to paint them. Now, I called down to Karen to see if she can, and I can see it now. And she said, yes, this has the sparkles in it, so this is going to have to get painted. Now, it's not as simple a thing, because what I'm going to try to do is, when we were able to paint again, I'm going to sand this all down carefully, get in all these letters. I don't want to lose this, bury it. So what I'm going to do is airbrush this. I think you can see the difference in the black. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you can. I'm not sure you can. But this has the sparkles in it that are in the gas tank. So, again, you know, who knows what motivates Kawasaki, that's for sure. But this will get painted, and then what I thought would be, I'll do the clear, but I have to be real careful. I don't want to fill these in and just lose the lettering detail. So this will be a separate job, a little detailed job. Now I know it's an easy decision. I never noticed until I cleaned this up that part had the sparkles in it, and you can see it really doesn't match. Well, at least Karen thinks it doesn't match. And boy, does she have a good eye. So that's one more part into our inventory of buffed out parts. I'm real happy the way that worked out. Very, very nice. And now that I know for sure these have to be painted, on the next paintable day we'll take care of that. Just so we don't forget it. We forget a lot of stuff. Now I have some time. I thought I'd get a couple of these other parts buffed. I try, when I have two parts the same, to do them on two separate days just to break up the monotony. This is a part that goes in the back of the seat, small part, same thing. While I have all the equipment out and while I have the 2000 grit paper, usually these go pretty quickly. But the key, as always, is never to rush. Once you make that commitment, you're going to do it, and you're not going to rush through it. Or as the Italians used to say, you build motorcycles like time doesn't exist. Well, here in Rutherford, New Jersey, we eat pepperoni as if time doesn't exist. Because I don't have to deal with this amazing amount of Bondo and body work, it's going to allow me to put just a little bit of extra work and detail into all of the detailing of these parts. Even the small parts like this, I want them to be perfect. That came out great. That black, when it's buffed out, is just it's hard to explain how nice it looks. Not sure it really even comes through on a video. Okay, one more piece of the puzzle. That's how I like to look at this, just one more piece of the puzzle. Every time we add a piece or buff a piece or finish a piece, another piece of the puzzle. And this is a big puzzle. So this is one of the things I wanted to see if it's going to work out. Well, let's get it off of here first. I don't need that. And what I wanted to see, of course, there's little specks of dust and little whatever in here. But that's why we buff parts. It goes without saying. 2000 grit. And this is not paint. This is the West Systems resin. So this is really an experiment to see if this will buff up to where I'm happy with it. Now, you never know what I'm happy with. I never know what I'm happy with. I know that if this part, if I paint it, every time my heel hits it, I'm going to have a scar, and it's not going to be as durable as I want. The resin may be a little more durable. I know the aluminum parts it replaces, they took a beating. Every time I cleaned the bike, I had to run a buffer over them. So, again, but this is one of the little defining things. Now, the whole idea of this restoration is, this is not a common bike you would restore. Most people want to do a Hayabusa or an R1 or an R1 Honda or something. This is an unusual restoration, so what I'm hoping, it's going to be very subtle. All of the things I'm doing are very subtle, and what I want is when people walk by, or people that have this bike, they say, oh, gee, wow. I don't want it to jump out in a crowd like at the Javits show, everybody runs over to see what it is. This is a very subtle thing, and this is one of the little parts. I know the first time I run into somebody with a 650, the first question they're going to ask, oh, where did you get that? Where did you get this? Where did you get that? And that's kind of the fun of doing this, is that you can share that if they want to do it, or if they want to, well, whatever. It's the passion we share. So the moment of truth, we're ready to see if this is going to buff out. Sand it out pretty much exactly like paint, so let's hope. So I want to see how this is going to buff out. If this buffs out the way I hope it does, I'll really count this day as a success. So now we're going to see, this is the first gallon of this system, the 105 with the 207, and I have to think any part we make with this resin now and this material is going to be K jewelry. Let me see this up close. I'm not sure, well, there's some fingerprints on it, but it came out pretty good. I always like to show this. There we go. Get those fingerprints off. Mamma mia. That is ready to put on the motorcycle.
Grandpa, guess what I got? Guess what I got?
What do you got?
Doritos!
Doritos! Yay! What are we having for lunch?
Bagels!
Bagels and Doritos! What could be better? Go! Bagels and Doritos, what could be better? Usually when my grandson comes over unexpectedly with bagels and Doritos, we don't get a lot more done that day. I get to drink the big thing of coffee. How was your tennis lesson? Fun? Mm-hmm. Not too bad?
It was good.
Oh man, we are living up. Doritos, the good Doritos. What are you reading? You got your own book right now? What? Dog Man?
Oh, is
that Dog Man? It's a great Christmas in Yurtnowski house. Well, unfortunately today it never stopped raining, so for all purposes, we're done for the day. There's going to be no painting today. And as always, there's always good news. You don't have to shovel rain. How true that is. So before I clean up the shop, I wanted to show the finish, get a little look at how that finish played out. And that is not paint, that's a West resin over carbon finish. I just wanted to show that. That was one of the things. But we're pretty much done for the day here. Now I have to really be honest. I really am impressed with how this finish worked out. And it's resin. It's, well, let's hope it's going to be a lot better, or it's going to be practical. But of course, the nuclear option on any of these things is at the end of a couple of years, I can just put another coat of resin on top of this. So we learned a lot about the West resin system. The West resin, after 3 days, buffs out like gefilte fish. It's perfect. Anyway, the family's here. They're getting ready for supper. I have to call it quits and go put clean clothes on. And of course, any day Miles is here, it's a short day, but we love spending time with him while he's young like this. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video and hope your Christmas is as good as ours is. And thanks for watching.